3:07 a.m., and the kitchen lights were too bright for secrets. Mia Carter stood barefoot on tile hands, wrapped around a glass of water. Ethan Cole's gray t-shirt hung on her like borrowed courage, soft at the collar. Outside Seattle, rain hammered the balcony doors. A floorboard creaked behind her. Mia turned and saw a small figure in the doorway swaddled in a dinosaur blanket, hair sticking up like she had fought sleep and won. The girl's eyes were wide and clear, the kind of alert that made adults feel caught. "Are you the lady from Daddy's work?" the child asked. Mia forced air into her lungs. "I am. I'm Mia." The girl stepped forward, dragging the blanket. She looked Mia up and down, then fixed on the shirt, then flicked her gaze toward Ethan, who stood by the sink with his sleeves pushed up, jaw set like a lock. The girl lowered her voice as if the rain might overhear. "Are you going to be my new mom?" "Sweetheart," Ethan said quickly. His tone tried to be gentle, but it landed sharp. "Back to bed." The girl did not move. "You're smiling," she said. "You never smile at work. Rachel says your face gets stuck." Mia's lips twitched despite herself. Ethan's ears went pink. "Rachel talks too much." "You brought her home," the girl continued, pointing at Mia like she was presenting evidence. "And she's wearing your shirt." Mia lifted a hand to the neckline, suddenly aware of how intimate cotton could feel. "It's just because of the storm," she said. The words sounded thin in the bright room. The girl nodded slowly, considering. Storms don't make shirts change owners. From the hallway came the soft click of a door and the shuffle of adult footsteps. A woman's voice, sleepy but amused, floated in. "Sophie, please tell me you are not interrogating guests again." Sophie did not look back. "I'm being responsible," she said. "Daddy forgets things." Ethan exhaled through his nose. He met Mia's eyes for half a second, and in that half second she saw something she had never seen across conference tables and deadlines. Worry, not for the manuscript, for the people in his house. Mia's phone buzzed on the counter screen, lighting up with an email header from Rainline's board. She did not open it. Not yet. The subject line carried the word restructuring, and Ethan's quiet apartment suddenly felt smaller, tighter, closer too. If you are enjoying this story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Before we go any further, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments. Rachel's footsteps came closer, soft but steady, like she had done this 100 times. She appeared in the hallway in thick socks and an oversized sweater, her hair piled into a messy knot. She looked at Sophie, then at Ethan, then at Mia, and the smallest smile tugged at her mouth. "Sophie," Rachel said, voice warm and calm. "You are supposed to be in bed." Sophie lifted her chin. "I heard voices. People could be burglars." Rachel blinked slowly. "In a condo with 3 locks and a doorman." Sophie did not flinch. "Burglars can be fancy." Mia pressed her lips together to keep from laughing. Ethan rubbed a hand over his face as if he could smooth the whole moment flat. Rachel's gaze slid to Mia's borrowed shirt, then to the glass in Mia's hands, then to Mia's bare feet. It was not a judgmental look. It was a measuring look, the kind that decided whether you were safe. "Hi," Mia said quietly. "I'm sorry. I did not mean to wake her." "You did not," Rachel replied, and her eyes flicked to Sophie. "This one wakes herself." Sophie pointed at Mia again, like she had not finished presenting her case. "She is from Daddy's work, and she is wearing his shirt." Rachel lifted an eyebrow at Ethan. "Is she?" "It is not what it sounds like," Ethan said. His voice was controlled, but the color in his cheeks gave him away. Sophie squinted. "It sounds like a shirt." Rachel's smile widened for a second, then she crouched in front of Sophie and smoothed the dinosaur blanket over her shoulders. "Sweetie, you can ask questions in the morning. Right now, you need sleep." Sophie frowned, thinking, "If I go to bed, will Daddy forget to answer?" Ethan's eyes closed for a brief moment. "I will answer in the morning," he said carefully. Sophie studied him as if she were reading a contract. Then she turned to Mia, and for the first time her face softened. "Do you like pancakes?" she asked. Mia's throat tightened in a way she did not expect. "I do," good Sophie said, as if that settled something important. Then she held out her hand to Rachel. "Walk me." Rachel took it and stood. She looked back at Mia. "You are welcome here tonight," she said, gentle but direct. "Seattle weather has a mean streak." Mia nodded. "Thank you." Rachel started down the hall with Sophie, then paused and called over her shoulder, "Ethan, do not hover. You hover like a helicopter." "I am not hovering," Ethan said. "You are," Sophie replied without looking back. Rachel's laugh floated down the hall, and a door clicked shut. For a moment, the apartment fell quiet except for the rain and the hum of the refrigerator. Mia stood near the counter, still holding the glass like she needed it to keep her hands from shaking. Ethan faced the sink, shoulders rigid as if he were bracing for impact. Mia's phone buzzed again. The screen lit up, then dimmed. Another bored email. Another reminder that her life was balanced on a needle. Ethan noticed the glow and turned his eyes, landing on the phone. "Work," he said. Always, Mia answered and hated how tired she sounded. He took a breath, then nodded toward the hallway. "Rachel is my sister," he said, as if Mia might not have guessed. "She stays over sometimes when I have events." Mia glanced around. The apartment was modern and clean, but it did not feel sterile. There were drawings taped to a wall near the kitchen, bright crayon explosions of purple and green. A row of small sneakers sat by the door. A stack of library books leaned on the coffee table, all of them worn at the corners like they had been loved. There was a framed photo on a shelf that caught Mia's eye. Ethan and Sophie at a baseball game, sun on their faces. Sophie on his shoulders, both of them laughing. Ethan's laugh in the photo looked easy, like it belonged to him. Mia looked away quickly, as if she had been caught reading his private mail. Ethan followed her gaze anyway. His jaw tightened, then relaxed. "She has too much energy," he said, "all the time." "She is confident," Mia said. "She is relentless," he corrected, but his mouth softened at the edges. Mia finally took a sip of water. It was cold and clean, and it grounded her a little. "I should not be here," she said, though the words did not sound like refusal. They sounded like fear. Ethan's eyes met hers. The office version of him would have filled the silence with instructions, deadlines, the sharp click of authority. This man just watched her, as if he were deciding how to speak without pushing her away. "You could not drive," he said, "and you could not get a ride." Mia swallowed. "I tried. Every app, nothing." "I know." He nodded once. "I checked too." Mia blinked. "You checked for me." Ethan's gaze dropped to the glass in her hands, then back to her face. "You are a senior editor in my division," he said, like he was reading from a rule book. "I am responsible for you when you are at a company event." "That sounds very official," Mia replied. "Good," he said, and there was the faintest hint of humor. "Because if I sound official, you stop looking like you want to bolt." Mia let out a breath she did not realize she had been holding. The rain hit the windows harder, as if the storm approved of tension. Ethan stepped closer to the counter and picked up Mia's phone, careful not to open it. He flipped it face down and slid it away from the edge. "You do not need that right now," he said. Mia stared at the phone, then at him. "The board is sending emails at 3 in the morning, she said. "That means something is wrong." Ethan's throat moved. "The board does things at inconvenient hours," he said, but he did not sound convincing. Mia did not press him. Not here. Not with Sophie down the hall and Rachel in the next room. Instead, she reached up and touched the collar of the shirt, tugging it, as if she could make it less intimate. "I can sleep on the couch," she offered. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "No." That was not a negotiation, he added when Mia opened her mouth. Mia gave him a look. "There he is." Ethan did not pretend not to understand. "Guest room," he said, gesturing toward the hallway. "Second door on the right. Rachel put fresh sheets on it this afternoon." Mia blinked at the detail. She knew someone would stay over. "She knows me," Ethan replied, and there was something rough in his voice. She knows I forget I am human until someone forces the issue. Mia felt a small ache behind her ribs. She set the glass down. I still have the manuscript, she said, more to steady herself than to bring work into his home. Ethan's focus sharpened. Saltwater letters. Mia nodded. The name tasted like sea air and trouble. I read the first half at the event, she said. It is good, uncomfortably good. Ethan leaned a hip against the counter. Uncomfortably is usually the point. Mia looked at him. Did you read it yet? I started, he said. Then Sophie asked for another bedtime story. Then another. Mia smiled faintly, relentless. Ethan's mouth twitched. Exactly. Silence settled again. Not awkward exactly, just full. Mia's mind slid back to the gala in flashes like scenes cut too fast. The ballroom lights, the smell of champagne. Derek Vaughn's hand on her elbow, a little too confident, a little too practiced. You should loosen up, Mia. Derek had said, voice thick with scotch. You are always working. You could be a lot more fun if you let yourself be. Mia had tried to step away polite and firm. I am here for the authors, Derek, not for this. Then Ethan's voice had cut through calm as ice. Is there a problem? Derek's smile had faltered. Not at all. Just talking strategy. Ethan's eyes had flicked to Mia, then back to Derek. Good, then I suggest you do it elsewhere. Derek had left with a laugh that sounded like a door slamming. Mia had expected Ethan to disappear after that, to retreat into his usual distance. Instead, he had placed a small drive into her hand, fingers brushing hers for a beat too long. Read it tonight, he had said. Board wants an answer at dawn. Mia had wanted to say no. Her apartment was lonely. Her eyes were tired. Her life was a stack of pages that never stopped growing. But she had nodded anyway because Ethan Cole did not ask twice, and because the manuscript had already started to pull at her like tide. Back in the present, Ethan watched Mia carefully, like he could tell she had been replaying the night. You did not drink much, Mia said suddenly, remembering the way he had held the same glass for hours. Ethan's eyes hardened, then softened. I do not, he said. Not when Sophie is home. You had a babysitter, Mia replied, then regretted the words. Ethan's gaze shifted toward the hallway. A babysitter is a person, he said quietly. A parent is a promise. The sentence landed with weight. Mia looked at the drawings on the wall again, the bright, uneven lines, the messy joy. She imagined Ethan alone in this apartment on nights like this, wearing a suit that fit like armor, then coming home to a child who could see through every layer. I did not know, Mia said, and she meant more than the drink. Ethan studied her face. His eyes were hazel, but in this light they looked darker, like wet stone. You do not ask, he said. Mia's voice dropped. You do not answer. For a moment, neither of them moved. The rain kept pounding the glass, relentless and steady, like it would never run out of reasons. Ethan pushed off the counter. Come on, he said, and the word came out softer than she expected. You need sleep. Mia picked up the tablet from her bag, hugging it to her chest. I can finish reading in the guest room. Ethan nodded once. There is a lamp by the bed. If you need anything, the bathroom is stocked. Rachel thinks I am incapable of basic preparation. I'm starting to believe her, Mia said. Ethan's mouth curved, quick and real. It vanished just as fast, like he had surprised himself. They walked down the hallway together. The apartment smelled faintly of laundry detergent and coffee grounds. When they reached the guest room door, Ethan paused. Thank you, Mia said, before she could stop herself. Ethan looked at her. For what? For tonight, she said, for stepping in, for the ride, for not letting me do something stupid. His gaze held hers steady and unreadable. Then he nodded toward the shirt again, and his voice went quiet. It is just a shirt, he said, but he did not sound like he believed it. Mia's cheeks warmed. She tightened her grip on the tablet. Good night, Ethan. Good night, Mia, he replied. She slipped into the guest room and closed the door softly. The space was simple but comfortable. The bed neatly made a folded towel on a chair. Mia set the tablet on the nightstand and crossed to the window. Rain streamed down the glass in thick lines, city lights blurred into watercolor. She checked her phone once, just once, then set it face down like Ethan had done. Her pulse was still too fast. She brushed her teeth with the unopened toothbrush in the bathroom cabinet and changed into the soft shirt again, grateful for anything that did not pinch or glitter or remind her of boardrooms. When she climbed into bed, the quiet felt loud. Through the wall, she heard Ethan's footsteps, slow and careful, then his voice in Sophie's room, low and soothing. "Eyes closed," he said. "No more questions." Sophie murmured something Mia could not catch. Ethan answered anyway, softer this time. "In the morning." Mia turned onto her side and stared at the ceiling, listening until the apartment settled into stillness again. The rain kept falling, but inside everything felt held in place by a fragile thread she did not want to touch too hard. Mia slept in broken pieces the way you do when your brain refuses to unclench. Every time the rain snapped against the window, she surfaced for a second, then sank again. Somewhere in the apartment, pipes clicked. A floorboard sighed. A child's small voice murmured and faded into silence. When she finally opened her eyes, daylight had turned the guest room into something softer. Pale winter sun pressed through the curtains and laid a warm stripe across the bed. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then the cotton on her skin reminded her. Ethan's t-shirt. Mia sat up too fast, hair falling into her face. Her phone was on the nightstand, face down like she had left it. She flipped it over and the screen lit up with missed notifications. 7:32 a.m. An email chain from the board. A calendar reminder she had set for herself weeks ago. Another message from an unknown number that was probably a rideshare apologizing for canceling. Her stomach tightened. She swung her feet onto the floor and listened. No rain now, or at least not the violent kind. The apartment sounded awake. A soft scrape of something on a pan. A faint clink of ceramic. Then a voice, low and calm, threaded through it. "Syrup goes in a spiral," Sophie declared. Mia stood still, one hand on the doorframe as if moving too quickly might shatter whatever was happening out there. She crossed to the bathroom, splashed water on her face, and brushed her teeth. The toothbrush was still new, the bristles stiff. That detail hit her again. Someone had stocked a toothbrush for a stranger who might need it in an emergency. She changed back into her clothes from last night, smoothing the wrinkles with her palms. When she stepped into the hallway, the smell met her first. Coffee, rich and sharp. Butter. Warm sugar. She followed it to the kitchen and stopped in the doorway. Ethan stood at the stove in jeans and a faded college t-shirt that looked like it had survived a decade of laundry. His hair was still damp at the edges, pushed back with no product, no effort. He flipped a pancake with the casual confidence of someone who had done it 1,000 times. Sophie sat on a counter stool legs, swinging her dinosaur blanket traded for a bright sweatshirt with glittery stars. Sophie spotted Mia and her whole face lit up. "You woke up." Mia's chest eased in spite of itself. "I did." "Daddy makes the best pancakes," Sophie announced as if Mia needed orientation. Ethan turned spatula in hand. He froze for half a beat, then his expression shifted into something neutral and professional. It did not quite work in the presence of syrup. "Morning," he said. "Morning," Mia replied, then cleared her throat. "I did not mean to sleep so late." Sophie waved a hand like a tiny manager. "It is fine. Daddy already did the spiral." Ethan lifted the spatula. "We have rules," he said, tone solemn. "Important rules," Sophie added. Mia stepped closer and saw the plate on the counter, a neat stack of pancakes already dressed with syrup in careful loops. The spiral looked almost too perfect, like Ethan had practiced. She also saw a thick sheaf of paper beside the coffee maker. The printed manuscript. Saltwater letters. Pages were covered in handwriting, tight and controlled notes marching down the margins. Tabs stuck out at regular intervals, color-coded like a battle plan. Mia's gaze lingered. Ethan followed it. "I could not sleep," he said, and the words came out simpler than any explanation. "So I read." Mia nodded slowly. "You worked while I slept." He slid a mug toward her. "Coffee." The mug was already prepared the way she took it. Cream, not too much. No sugar. The scent rose up like something familiar and private. Mia stared at it. How did you know? Ethan's face did something small, almost imperceptible. A flicker of discomfort. Then he shrugged, as if it were obvious. I notice things. Sophie leaned forward, delighted. He notices everything. He says it is his superpower. Mia wrapped her hands around the mug to hide the tremor in her fingers. The ceramic was warm. She took a sip. It tasted exactly right. Her eyes lifted to Ethan over the rim. So, she said lightly, "What else is your superpower besides correct coffee?" Sophie did not let Ethan answer. "He knows dinosaur names," she said, counting on her fingers. "All of them. And he can fix anything that breaks. And he can tie shoes really fast, but he cannot braid hair." Ethan made a sound that might have been a laugh if it escaped fully. "Thank you, Sophie." "It is true," Sophie insisted. She looked at Mia with sudden intensity. "Can you braid hair?" Mia blinked. "I can." Sophie slapped her hands on the counter like she had solved a problem. "Good. Then you can teach Daddy." Ethan set another pancake on the plate, then met Mia's eyes. "You do not have to teach me anything," he said, but his voice was gentler than the words. Mia did not answer right away. She sat on the stool Ethan indicated beside Sophie, careful not to bump her knee against his. The kitchen felt lived and warm from the stove, bright with morning. It felt like a different world from Rainline's glass offices and fluorescent lights. Sophie watched Mia with open curiosity. "Do you like books?" she asked, as if Mia might be a surprising kind of adult. Mia smiled, a lot. "Daddy likes books too," Sophie said. "But he gets grumpy when people do not use commas right." Ethan shot her a look. "That is not why I get grumpy." Sophie shrugged, unbothered. "It is one of the reasons." Mia laughed softly. The sound surprised her, and it surprised Ethan too. He glanced at her as if he was hearing it for the first time. He set a plate in front of her. "Eat," he said, "before the day starts." Mia picked up her fork, but her eyes kept drifting to the manuscript. "What do you think she asked?" Ethan did not answer immediately. He poured coffee for himself, black, and leaned against the counter as if he needed something solid under him to say it. "It is the kind of book that makes people uncomfortable because it tells the truth," he said. "It is sharp, it is messy, it is alive." Mia's mouth went dry. "So we want it." "We need it," Ethan corrected. Sophie frowned. "Why do you need it?" Ethan's face softened. "Because stories can help people feel less alone," he said. And it was the first time Mia had heard him speak like an editor and not a manager. Sophie considered that, then decided she was done with the topic. She stabbed a pancake with her fork and took a bite that left syrup on her lip. She licked it off with a satisfaction, then looked straight at Mia again. So she said, voice casual, "Are you going to be my new mom?" Ethan choked on his coffee. Mia froze fork midair. Heat rushed into her cheeks so fast it felt like a fever. "Sophie," Ethan said, and there was real panic in his voice now. "No." Sophie blinked. "Why not? You brought her here. And she wears your shirt, and you smile." Ethan's eyes flicked to Mia's chest, to the place where the borrowed shirt had been last night, like he could still see it. Then he looked away. "She is my colleague," he said, carefully enunciating each word. "She stayed because of the storm." Sophie nodded, like she accepted the logic, then added, "Storms do not make shirts change owners." Mia pressed her lips together, fighting the urge to laugh and the urge to disappear at the same time. "I am not your new mom," she said gently. "I am Mia. I work with your dad." Sophie chewed, thinking. "For now," she said with a shrug, then went back to her pancake. Ethan put his mug down with deliberate control. "I am sorry," he said low. "It is okay," Mia replied, though her heart was still hammering. "She is 7. 7, and determined," Ethan said. Sophie lifted her fork. 7 3/4, she corrected. Mia's phone buzzed on the counter. The sound cut through the warm kitchen like a knife through paper. Mia's stomach tightened again instinctively. She set her fork down and glanced at the screen. Rainline Books, office line. Not an email this time. She answered, Mia Carter. A voice on the other end spoke quickly, clipped by urgency. Emergency meeting, 10 o'clock sharp. Board moved it up. Mia's hand tightened around the phone. Moved it up to today. Now the voice said, they are announcing the cuts this morning. Everyone is expected. The call ended before Mia could say anything else. For a moment, she just stared at the phone. The kitchen felt too quiet. Even the stove seemed to stop hissing. Ethan's eyes were on her. Bored, he said. Mia swallowed. 10 o'clock, she managed. They are doing it today. Sophie looked between them, syrup forgotten. Is Daddy in trouble? Ethan's expression changed, turning careful. No, sweetheart, he said. No one is in trouble. Mia tried to smile at Sophie, but it did not reach her face. It is just grown-up work, she said. Sophie did not look convinced. Ethan reached out and wiped a dot of syrup off Sophie's lip with his thumb, a small, steady gesture. Finish breakfast, he told her. Rachel will take you to school. Sophie narrowed her eyes. You are both using serious voices. Ethan gave her a look that was half warning, half plea. Pancake voices, he said. Sophie huffed, but she returned to her plate. Mia set the phone down, hands suddenly cold. You knew she said not loud, but it carried. Ethan did not flinch. I got the call last night, he admitted. Her throat tightened. The warmth of the morning, the spiral syrup, the joke about braids, it all felt like a room that had shifted on its foundation. And you did not tell me. His jaw worked once. I could not, he said. Confidentiality. Mia let out a breath that sounded too much like a laugh and not enough like one. Right, of course. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice so Sophie would not hear. Mia, he said, I fought for you. Mia blinked, caught off guard. What? I fought for your team, he continued, voice tight. I pushed for editorial to be protected. I pushed for you by name. Mia stared at him. She wanted to be angry. She was angry. But the words did not line up neatly with the picture in front of her. Ethan, in a faded t-shirt, pancake batter on the stove, eyes tired in a way that had nothing to do with work. Why, she asked barely above a whisper. Ethan held her gaze for a long second. Because you are the best editor I have, he said. Because you see the spine of a story when everyone else only sees sales numbers. Because Rainline needs you. Sophie looked up again, sensing the shift. Are you guys having a whisper fight? She asked. Mia's mouth twitched. Ethan's eyes closed for a brief second as if he was praying for patience. No, Ethan said, and his voice softened for her. We are talking. Sophie accepted that. Okay, she said, then pointed at Ethan, but do not forget the ice skating promise. You promised. Ethan nodded. I remember. Mia's chest tightened at the word promise. She stood and started clearing plates needing movement. Sophie hopped down from her stool, dragging her plate to the sink with exaggerated effort. Mia took it from her gently. Thank you, Sophie said, polite and serious, then ran down the hall like the floor was lava. Ethan turned off the stove. He stepped beside Mia at the sink close enough that his sleeve brushed her arm. The contact was light, accidental, but it stayed in Mia's awareness like a fingertip pressed to skin. We should go, Mia said, voice steadying itself by force. I need to change. I need to get there early. I will drive you, Ethan said. I can take a cab, Mia replied automatically. You cannot, he said, and the old authority edged into his tone. Then it softened. Not today. Not after last night. Mia looked at him. The man, who had been her boss for 3 years, was standing in his own kitchen, offering to deliver her to the place where her job might disappear. His eyes held something that looked like restraint, like he was holding back words that did not belong in a morning full of pancakes and board meetings. Mia reached for her bag on the chair. Her fingers brushed Ethan's on the way, and this time neither of them pulled away immediately. Okay, she said. Ethan nodded once, decisive. Rachel will handle school drop-off. He murmured more to himself than to Mia. Then louder Sophie. Shoes, jacket. Sophie's voice floated back from the hallway. I know how to be a person, Dad. Mia almost smiled. Almost. By 8:12 they were in Ethan's car, the city still damp and gray streets shining with the leftover rain. Mia watched the wipers sweep back and forth in steady rhythm like a metronome counting down to 10 o'clock. Ethan drove with both hands on the wheel, eyes forward, face set. Neither of them spoke for the first few blocks. Then Mia said quietly, I did not expect to wake up in your home. Ethan's grip on the wheel tightened just slightly. Neither did I. The Rainline building rose ahead, glass and steel against the morning sky. Ethan pulled into the garage, the car descending into concrete echo. Mia's heart thudded louder with every level they passed. When they stepped into the elevator, the doors slid shut, and the silence pressed in around them. Mia stared at the floor numbers climbing, and Ethan stood beside her, still controlled the scent of coffee and soap clinging to him like a memory that did not belong in a boardroom. The elevator chimed. The doors opened onto the hallway outside the conference suite, and voices spilled out tense and hushed. Mia took one step forward, then another, her shoulders squaring on instinct. Ethan moved with her. They walked toward the meeting room together. The conference suite was already full when Mia and Ethan arrived. Voices that usually carried a casual hum had dropped into tight, careful murmurs. People stood in small clusters that kept breaking apart and reforming as if everyone was searching for the safest place to land. A few assistants moved along the walls with clipboards and tablets, eyes down, faces blank. Mia stepped through the doorway and felt the air change. The long table gleamed under recessed lights. Bottles of water sat at every seat like props in a courtroom. At the far end, the screen was already on a clean white slide, waiting for someone to put words on it. HR sat along the side with their laptops open. Legal sat beside them, a man in a gray suit with a folder thick enough to be a weapon. Graham Whitaker's Rainline's chief executive stood near the head of the table with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked the same as always. Crisp shirt, perfect posture, a face that could hold sympathy without showing it. Near him, an older board member tapped a pen against his notebook, the sound sharp and impatient. Mia found an empty seat near the middle and sat. Ethan took a seat 2 chairs away, angled so he could see her and the head of the table at the same time. He set his phone face down, then placed a slim notebook in front of him. His expression had returned to the version of him she knew at work, controlled and unreadable. Only his fingers gave him away. They flexed once against the cover of the notebook, then stilled. Across the table, Derek Vaughn lounged in his chair as if it were a private club. He wore a navy suit that looked expensive and a smile that looked borrowed. When Mia's eyes met his, he lifted his eyebrows in a quick greeting like they shared a joke she had not agreed to. Mia looked away. The last few employees filtered in, then the doors clicked shut. The room settled into silence. Someone coughed. Someone else shifted their chair, the legs scraping lightly across the floor. Graham stepped forward. "Thank you for coming in on such short notice," he said. His voice was steady, measured, practiced for hard announcements. "I know there have been rumors. I know there is anxiety." A few people stared at the table. A few stared straight ahead like they were bracing for impact. Mia kept her eyes on Graham because looking away felt like surrender. "We have reached a turning point," Graham continued. "The market is changing. Reading habits are changing. Distribution models are changing. We can either adapt or we can shrink until we disappear." He clicked a remote. The first slide appeared. A simple title in bold letters. Strategic Combination. A ripple moved through the room, small but immediate. Graham did not pause long enough for anyone to speak. As of this morning, Rainline Books has entered into a merger agreement with Summit Inc. The words landed like a dropped object that nobody could catch. Mia's stomach tightened. Summit Inc. was not a distant competitor. It was the rival everyone compared them to, the company with deeper pockets and sharper marketing, the one Rainline had tried to beat in every season list for the last decade. Whispers broke out. Two editors near the end of the table leaned toward each other, mouths moving fast. Someone else muttered a quiet curse. Graham raised one hand. Not dramatic, just firm. I understand this is shocking. It is also necessary. This merger positions us to thrive in a digital-first landscape while preserving the values that built both houses. Digital first. The phrase tasted cold. Mia glanced at Ethan. His face remained composed, but his eyes had sharpened, tracking every word. He looked like he was already turning the announcement into a problem to solve. Graham clicked again. A slide of overlapping circles appeared, Rainline on one side, Summit on the other, with a section labeled Integration. This will require significant changes to our organizational structure, Graham said. Departments will be consolidated. Some roles will change. Some roles will end. The HR director's hands moved to her keyboard. The legal representative sat very still, as if stillness was part of his job. Mia's heart hammered slow and heavy. She felt the echo of her early morning phone call like a bruise. Cuts today. Announcing today. Graham's voice remained even. We will begin with core business functions. Finance, operations, distribution, marketing. Derek straightened slightly at the word marketing, like his spine had been pulled by a string. Then Graham looked down at his notes and continued. Editorial. Mia's breath caught. The room seemed to tilt a fraction. The word editorial hung in the air, naked and exposed. The slide changed to a list. Mia saw the label Editorial and Acquisitions, and beneath it bullet points that made her palms go damp. Consolidation. Streamlining. Redundancy. Integration with Summit departments. Her mind flashed to her team. Nora at her desk with the sticky notes. Jamal, who never left a meeting without a new idea. Priya, who had stayed late for 3 nights to save a debut novel from collapsing. People with mortgages, people with kids. People who loved books like oxygen. Mia's throat tightened. She felt Ethan's eyes on her from 2 chairs away. She kept her gaze forward anyway, because if she looked at him, she might crack. Graham spoke again. There will be reductions. A low sound moved through the room, not quite a gasp, not quite a groan. Someone's pen snapped the plastic crack loud in the silence that followed. Graham lifted his chin. However, the single word cut through the panic like a clean slice. We also recognize the exceptional talent within Rainline, he said. Summit recognizes it as well. The combined organization will need leaders with deep editorial judgment and proven results. Mia felt the room lean forward without anyone moving. Graham consulted his notes. The paper made a soft rustle. He looked up. We will be offering key positions to a number of individuals, he said. He turned his head slightly toward the HR director, who nodded once as if this was the line they had rehearsed. Graham's gaze moved across the table, then stopped. Mia Carter. Mia's name hit her like a bell. For a moment, she wondered if she had misheard. Her pulse thudded in her ears loud enough to drown everything else. Graham continued, voice smooth. You will head our new literary fiction imprint under the combined structure. You will oversee acquisitions and editorial direction for the division with direct reporting to the executive office. Mia sat rigid. The edges of the table seemed suddenly very sharp. Her hands were flat on her notebook, fingers spread as if she needed to hold herself in place. A promotion. Now, in this room, in the middle of fear. The people near her turned their heads. Some looked surprised. Some looked relieved for her. Some looked resentful, like her name had taken oxygen meant for someone else. Mia heard a quiet whisper behind her, then another. Derek's mouth tightened for a second, then he recovered with a bright expression and a small nod, like he was congratulating her from a stage. Mia barely registered it. Graham's eyes flicked back to his notes. Ethan Cole. Mia's stomach dropped before he even finished. Ethan will serve as Executive Director of Global Acquisitions for the combined company, Graham said. Effective immediately, he will be relocating to New York to lead integration with Summit's acquisitions group and oversee international expansion. The room went still again, but this time it was a different stillness. The kind that comes when people sense a personal shift, not just a corporate one. New York. Mia felt the word like a cold hand around her ribs. This morning, she had stood in Ethan's kitchen, a mug of coffee warming her palms. Sophie had asked that question with syrup on her lip. Ethan had wiped it away with his thumb, like that gesture was normal, like that was his world. And now the board had put him on the other side of the country with a sentence. She turned her head slow, almost afraid to look. Ethan's face had not changed, but something in his eyes had. A brief flash, sharp and unguarded, then gone. He gave the smallest nod as if to acknowledge he had heard and understood, as if his body had already started obeying. Graham kept speaking, listing other names and roles. Mia heard fragments. Operations lead. Marketing consolidation. A new digital strategy director from Summit. A timeline for integration. Severance packages. Transition meetings. It all washed over her like background noise. Her mind kept circling one thing. Ethan did not tell me. Then another thought followed, quieter and more complicated. Maybe he did not know either. The meeting ended with a final slide full of dates and neutral language. People stood too quickly, chairs scraping. The room filled with overlapping voices that tried to sound composed and failed. Mia remained seated for a beat, as if her body needed time to remember how to move. Ethan rose with controlled precision. He closed his notebook and slid it under his arm. His eyes found Mia, once brief and steady, then shifted away as if staying on her too long would cause a scene. Graham stepped down from the head of the table and began speaking to a board member near the side, his hands already moving in calm, reassuring gestures. HR formed a small cluster preparing to deliver information with practiced softness. Legal began packing his folder like this was just another morning. Mia forced herself to stand. Her legs felt slightly numb, like they belonged to someone else. "Congratulations," a voice said near her shoulder. Mia turned and saw Nora, her assistant, eyes wide. Behind her, Jamal hovered, trying to smile through panic. "They said your name," Nora whispered, as if speaking too loudly might undo it. Mia nodded, but she did not trust her voice. She reached out and squeezed Nora's hand once, quick and grounding. Nora squeezed back. Does this mean Jamal started then stopped because he could not finish the sentence without pleading? "I do not know yet," Mia said. The honesty tasted bitter. "But we will talk soon." Nora's eyes darted past Mia's shoulder. "Ethan is leaving," she whispered, like she could not believe it. Mia turned again. Ethan was moving toward the door, already surrounded by a small wave of people trying to get his attention. A senior editor from Summit, unfamiliar face, stepped into his path and said something Mia could not hear. Ethan nodded, polite and distant, then angled around him. Derek appeared beside Mia, close enough that she could smell his cologne over the stale conference room air. "Mia," he said, voice slick with performative warmth, "head of an imprint." "That is impressive." She looked at him. His smile did not reach his eyes. "Thank you," she said, keeping her tone flat. Derek leaned in slightly. "We should talk about how marketing can support your new division. Rainline will need cohesion if we want Summit to respect us." Mia's jaw tightened. Not now. Derek's eyes flicked toward Ethan's retreating back, then returned to Mia. "Fair," he said, as if he were granting her permission. "But soon." He drifted away, already scanning the room for the next advantage. Mia's attention snapped back to Ethan. He was nearly at the door now. Someone said his name. He paused, offered a brief reply, then continued. Mia moved without fully deciding to. She threaded between chairs and clusters of people, murmuring apologies that barely sounded like words. Her pulse kept climbing. Her mind kept replaying the morning the mug of coffee set in front of her like Ethan had known her for longer than he admitted. At the doorway she called softly, "Ethan." He turned. The hallway light cut across his face, and for an instant the controlled mask slipped. There was strain there. Surprise. Something like regret. He started toward her, then someone called his name again from behind, more urgent this time. Ethan's shoulders tightened. He hesitated, eyes still on Mia. Mia stood in the doorway with the noise of the office pressing in behind her and the bright corridor stretching out ahead. She waited, heart thudding, as Ethan took one step in her direction. Ethan took another step toward Mia, then stopped when the hallway behind him filled with people spilling out of the conference suite. A man in a Summit Inc. badge brushed past, speaking Ethan's name like it was a summons. Someone else called out about an integration call at noon. The noise pressed in loud and eager. Ethan's eyes stayed on Mia. "Can we talk?" he said quietly. Mia nodded once and her throat tightened around the motion. She turned into the corridor without looking back, trusting him to follow. The carpet muffled their footsteps. The walls were lined with framed jackets and glossy author photos that suddenly felt like ghosts from a safer era. Ethan guided her toward an empty alcove beside a closed supply closet. It was the kind of corner people used for whispered phone calls and private tears. He stood close enough that Mia could smell coffee on his breath and the clean soap he used at home. It made her angry in a way she did not want to name. Mia looked straight at him. "New York," she said. Ethan's jaw flexed. "I know. You knew before the meeting," she pressed, keeping her voice low. "Did you know when you drove me here?" Ethan hesitated, and that pause was an answer with teeth. Mia felt heat rise in her face. "So you did." His gaze dropped for a moment, then lifted. "I got the call this morning," he said, "early." Mia stared. "Before breakfast?" "Yes." The word landed like a weight. She saw Sophie on her stool again, swinging her legs, syrup on her lip. She saw Ethan wiping it away with his thumb, like everything was normal. Like their morning had not been built on a secret. "You let me sit at your counter and drink coffee." "You made exactly how I like it," Mia said, the bitterness sharper than she intended. "You let your daughter ask me if I was going to be her new mom, and you did not tell me you were leaving." Ethan's face tightened. "I was not leaving at 8 in the morning," he said. "I was still trying to understand what they were asking me to do." Mia let out a breath that sounded thin. "You always have a reason." His eyes flashed. "And you always assume the worst." Mia's lips parted, then closed. The corridor hummed around them. A copier whirred somewhere. An elevator dinged and slid open, then shut. Life kept moving careless. Ethan took a small step closer, lowering his voice. "I did not tell you because it was not my news to share before the announcement," he said. "Because there were people in that room who would have found out through panic instead of process. Because Sophie was in the next room and I wanted one normal morning before everything became a spreadsheet." Mia's chest tightened at the word normal. She wanted to hate him for it. She also wanted to understand. "You could have told me after she went to school," Mia said, voice still quiet. "You could have told me in the car." Ethan's throat moved. "I wanted to," he admitted. Mia studied him. The office version of Ethan would have taken control of the conversation, turned it into strategy. This Ethan looked like he had been hit by something he could not edit. "Then why did you not?" she asked. His gaze held hers. "Because you looked at me this morning like I was someone you could trust," he said. "And I did not want to watch that look disappear." Mia's breath caught. She hated that the words landed. She hated that he saw her so clearly. Before she could respond, a voice cut into the space. "Mia." She turned and saw Nora moving quickly down the corridor. Cheeks flushed, eyes wide. "HR is asking for you," Nora whispered, then glanced at Ethan like she was looking at weather. "They said your name, and now everyone is asking questions." Mia nodded. "I am coming." Nora's gaze flicked between them. She did not ask. She just handed Mia a folder and squeezed her arm once like a silent anchor, then hurried away. Mia looked back at Ethan. "I have a team," she said, as if reminding herself. "I know," he replied. A beat passed. Mia could have walked away. She should have walked away. Instead, she heard herself say, "Is it?" set her voice barely above a whisper. "New York." Ethan's eyes softened, then hardened again. They want me there in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. The number formed in Mia's mind with sharp edges. She imagined time dividing itself into before and after, and she resented the calendar for existing. Ethan continued. They will announce the rest of the transitions by end of day. People will start packing their desks, phones will ring, assistants will cry in bathrooms. It is going to be ugly. Mia's grip tightened on the folder. And you, she said, you will be busy saving the company. His mouth twitched without humor. The company will save itself. I will be busy making sure Sophie lands on her feet. The mention of Sophie made Mia's anger wobble. She saw the drawings on Ethan's wall. She saw his sister's calm hands steering Sophie back to bed. She saw the way Ethan had moved through the apartment like he was guarding something fragile. Mia's voice dropped. Did you agree? Ethan's eyes met hers. I have not answered yet, he said. Not officially. Mia blinked. You have not. He shook his head once. They framed it as an assignment, not a discussion. Mia stared at him, trying to reconcile it with the boardroom certainty. She had watched Graham Whitaker speak Ethan's relocation like it was already inked into the world. Ethan's jaw tightened. I asked for time. Mia swallowed. And they gave it to you. Barely, he said. A group of employees rounded the corner, voices too loud, laughter forced. Someone said Derek's name. Ethan shifted slightly, putting his body between Mia and the hallway traffic without thinking. The protective instinct was automatic, and it made Mia's stomach flip in the most inconvenient way. Mia stepped back. I need to go, she said. Ethan nodded, then caught her wrist lightly just for a second. The touch was careful. Not claiming, not demanding, just stopping her long enough to say something that mattered. About last night, he began. Mia's eyes narrowed. Do not. Ethan held her gaze. About this morning, he corrected. Mia's breath moved in and out fast. We do not have time, she said, but the words sounded like a lie. Ethan released her wrist. We will make time, he said quietly. Mia wanted to tell him not to speak like that. Not now. Not in these halls. Not with HR waiting and people staring and her promotion still fresh like a bruise. Instead, she turned and walked away before her face betrayed her. HR's temporary command center had been set up in a glass meeting room with frosted stripes across the walls. Inside, the air smelled like printer toner and anxiety. A woman from HR smiled with practiced gentleness and handed Mia a stack of documents outlining her new role, her reporting line, her compensation, and a list of immediate priorities. Mia listened, she nodded, she signed where she was told. Her signature looked like someone else's handwriting. When she walked out, the office had already shifted. People were whispering in corners. Some desks had boxes beside them. A junior editor stood by the elevator with red eyes and a phone pressed to her ear, repeating, I do not know yet, like a prayer. Mia found her team. Nora was at her desk, pulling up schedules and lists, trying to look composed. Jamal stood nearby, arms folded, his foot tapping. Priya sat in her chair, with her hands in her lap, staring at her screen without reading it. Mia stepped into their space and felt their attention snap to her like a rope. Nora's voice cracked. Did they say anything about us? Mia swallowed. Not enough, she said, honest and steady. But I am meeting with the leadership this afternoon. I'm not letting editorial get gutted without a fight. Jamal's eyes searched her face. And you? He asked quietly. Are you safe? Mia felt the absurdity of the question. Safe? In publishing? In a merger? On a day like this? They offered me a position, she said. Nora's breath caught. Mia. Mia nodded. It is real. But it does not mean anything if we do not protect the people who do the work. Priya's eyes lifted. They will cut what looks expensive, she said softly. They will keep what looks shiny. Mia leaned closer. Then we make the work impossible to ignore, she replied. For the next hour, Mia moved through conversations like she was walking through rain. She took calls from Summit contacts who spoke in cheerful corporate phrases. She answered questions from editors who needed reassurance she did not fully have. She smiled at the congratulations that felt out of place and heavy. At noon, Derek Vaughn appeared at the edge of her workspace like a shark that knew the water had changed. "Mia," he said, voice bright. "We should sync. Your new imprint will need a launch strategy. Summit will be watching. We want to look unified." Mia kept her expression neutral. "I have meetings." Derek's smile stayed in place. "So do I. Yet I find time for priorities." Mia looked up at him. "My priority is keeping people employed." Derek leaned closer, lowering his voice. "And mine is keeping the company alive so anyone stays employed." "Besides," he added, eyes flicking toward the hallway, "a new head of imprint will have to make hard calls. You will want allies." Mia felt her stomach tighten. Derek did not offer help. He offered a hook. "I will reach out when I have bandwidth," she said. Derek's eyes lingered on her as if testing how far he could push. "Dinner," he said smoothly. "Tonight. We can talk structure without the noise." Mia's pulse jumped with irritation. "No," she said clear and flat. Derek's smile thinned. "No, as in not tonight, or no, as in never?" Mia met his gaze. "No, as in I do not mix my promotion with your appetite." Derek's eyes sharpened for a second, then he laughed lightly, as if she had made a joke. "You have claws. I like that." He tilted his head. "Maybe you are already seeing someone." Mia felt a flash of heat and hated it. She did not answer. Derek's gaze drifted past her shoulder, and Mia followed it without meaning to. Ethan stood at the end of the aisle near a glass office speaking with a Summit executive. His posture was controlled, but his eyes were on Mia. Not long. Not openly. Just enough. Derek noticed and smiled wider like he had caught a scent. "Interesting," he murmured. Then he stepped back, hands raised in mock surrender. "All right, another time." He walked away and the air he left behind felt dirty. Mia turned back to her screen, but the words blurred. Her phone vibrated with a calendar invite. Another integration call, another block of time stolen. By late afternoon, the office looked like a storm had passed through it. People carried boxes. A few desks were already empty. Someone taped a handwritten note to the break room fridge that said, "Thank you for the memories, and the simplicity of it made Mia's throat burn." She stepped into an empty conference room to breathe, pressing her palm against the cool glass wall. Outside, the sky had turned the color of wet concrete. The door opened softly behind her. Mia turned and saw Ethan. He closed the door and leaned against it as if he needed the barrier. His tie was gone. His sleeves were rolled up. His face looked tight around the eyes. "You are busy," Mia said. "I made time," Ethan replied. Mia stared at him for a moment, then looked away, focusing on the city outside the windows. Cars moved like slow fish through damp streets. People kept living. Ethan's voice was low. "I heard Derek asked you to dinner." Mia's jaw tightened. "He does not ask, he collects." Ethan's gaze held steady. "Did you say no?" "I did," she said. A small release crossed Ethan's face, too quick to be smug, too human to hide. Then the tension returned. "About our dinner," he said. Mia's throat tightened again. "Ethan." He did not press closer. He did not touch her. He just stood there, and his restraint felt like its own kind of pressure. "We need to talk," he said. "About the manuscript, about integration, about your new role, about my assignment, about how to keep your team from being treated like numbers." Mia let out a slow breath. The reasons were professional. They were real. They were also a shield. "And if we talk," Mia said, turning to face him fully, "we pretend it is only that." Ethan's eyes did not flicker. "We talk," he said. "We do not pretend." Mia's pulse knocked hard against her ribs. She wanted to say it was a bad idea. She wanted to say it was unfair. She wanted to say she was tired of being surprised by secrets. Instead, she heard herself ask where. Ethan's shoulders eased a fraction. "That new place on the waterfront," he said. "Quiet, good food. No one from the office likes it yet." Mia almost smiled. "Of course you know that." His mouth curved slightly. "I noticed things," he said, and the familiar phrase landed differently now, heavier. Mia looked at him for a long beat, then nodded once. "Dinner," she said. Ethan's gaze held hers like he was memorizing the permission. "7," he replied. Mia nodded again, then reached for her bag. "I have to go," she said, voice steadier than she felt. "I need to check on my team. I need to go home." Ethan stepped aside to let her pass. As she walked past him, his hand lifted as if he might touch her arm, then stopped. He let the space remain hers. Mia left the conference room and walked through the office with her shoulders squared as if posture could hold her together. She said goodbye to Nora and told Jamal to send her any concerns. She promised Priya a meeting tomorrow, even though tomorrow felt like a story she could not yet read. By the time she reached her apartment, the hallway outside her door was quiet. Her place smelled like cold air and the faint perfume of a neighbor's laundry detergent. She dropped her keys into the bowl by the entry and stood still, listening to the silence. It felt too empty after Ethan's apartment, after Sophie's voice, after the constant buzz of the office. Mia walked into her bedroom and opened her closet. Rows of clothes stared back at her, suddenly unfamiliar. Work dresses, blouses with sharp collars, a black dress she had bought for a launch party and never worn again. She lifted one hanger, then another, fingers hesitating as if fabric could decide her next move. Somewhere in the building, a door shut softly. A distant elevator chimed. Mia stood in front of her closet with the day still ringing in her ears and her phone on the dresser lit up once with a single reminder. 7:00 p.m. dinner. The reminder on Mia's dresser glowed at 6:58 p.m. Dinner. She stood in front of her closet with one hand on a hanger, breathing like she had just run up the stairs. The day had left its fingerprints everywhere. In the tension behind her eyes, in the dry ache at the base of her throat, in the way her phone seemed to vibrate even when it was still. She pulled out a black dress she had worn exactly once, simple lines, nothing loud. It was the kind of dress that could pass for professional if anyone asked, and still look like she had made an effort for herself. She changed, smoothed the fabric over her hips, and stared at her reflection until her face looked neutral enough to survive questions. Her doorbell rang at precisely 7. Mia's pulse jumped. She opened the door and found Ethan on her welcome mat, hands full and shoulders squared like he had rehearsed where to put them. He wore dark jeans and a charcoal blazer, no tie. His hair was neatly combed, but a few strands refused to obey, as if the day had gotten in one last argument with him. In his left hand was a small bouquet of wildflowers. Not roses, not anything dramatic, just color and softness. In his right hand was a small wrapped package. His eyes moved over her quick and careful, then met hers again. "Hi," he said. Mia took a breath. "Hi." He held out the flowers first. "These reminded me of you." She accepted them, fingers brushing his for a brief second. The flowers smelled clean and bright, like something that had grown without permission. "That can go a lot of ways," Mia said. A faint smile touched his mouth. "It is a compliment." Mia stepped back. "Come in, I need a vase." Ethan walked into her apartment with the stillness of someone who did not want to leave footprints. Mia crossed to the kitchen, opened a cabinet, and found a glass pitcher she used for water. She ran it under the tap, her back aware of Ethan's attention without turning around. When she faced him again, he was looking at her bookshelves. Not scanning for status, not judging the decor. Just looking like he could tell something about a person from how their books leaned and which spines were worn. "You have a lot of hardcovers," he said. Mia slid the flowers into the pitcher. "I do not trust paperbacks," she replied. "They fall apart when you need them most." His eyes flicked to hers, amused. "That explains a lot." She arched an eyebrow. "About me or about you?" "Both," he said. He lifted the wrapped package. "This is for you." Mia blinked. "Ethan." "Open it," he said, voice calm. She took it carefully as if the paper might bite. The wrap was neat, corners crisp. When she peeled it away, the cover beneath caught the light deep blue with embossed lettering. To the lighthouse. Mia went still. Her thumb traced the title without thinking, then paused on the edge where the paper had softened with age. This is, she started, then stopped because the words fell away. Ethan watched her face eyes steady. It is a first edition. Mia's breath left her in a slow rush. How did you even find this? I called a dealer I trust, he said. Mia looked up sharply. You have a dealer you trust. A small lift of his shoulders. Books require contacts. Mia kept staring at him the way you stare at a door that should not have opened. I do not remember telling you this is my favorite. You did, he replied. Mia shook her head once. I did not. Ethan's gaze held hers. Last year. The Morrison manuscript meeting. You said his prose reminded you of Woolf at her best, and that To the Lighthouse was the standard for stream of consciousness when it is done with discipline. Mia's throat tightened. She could picture the meeting, the fluorescent light, her own voice tossing out that comment without any expectation anyone would keep it. That was one sentence, she said. Ethan nodded. I remember sentences. Mia felt warmth rise behind her ribs, immediate and dangerous. She set the book down on the counter carefully, like it deserved a place of honor, even in this moment. Thank you, she managed. Ethan's eyes softened. You are welcome. Mia forced herself to pick up her purse. So, waterfront, she said, leaning on logistics like a railing. Ethan nodded. Yes. They took the elevator down. The building's lobby smelled faintly of pine cleaner and winter coats. Outside, Seattle had settled into damp quiet. The rain was lighter now, more mist than storm, and the streetlights made the pavement shine. Ethan opened the passenger door of his car for her. Mia slid in careful with her dress. When he walked around to the driver's side, she watched him through the windshield the way his shoulders held tension, even in motion. The drive was short. Neither of them talked much at first. Cars past wipers swept the city moved like it was trying not to draw attention to itself. Mia broke the silence. Sophie was fine today. Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel for a fraction of a second, then eased. Rachel texted me. She got to school on time. She asked if you like pancakes. Mia smiled despite herself. She asked me that too. Ethan exhaled the smallest sound of relief. Good. Mia stared out at the blurred lights. She is very direct, she said. She has learned it works, he replied. They arrived at the restaurant, a quiet place on the water, with warm lighting and windows that made the bay look like dark glass. A hostess led them to a table near the back. The room was calm, the kind of calm that felt expensive. The soft clink of cutlery, low voices, a server who moved like she had nowhere else to be. Ethan waited until they were seated before speaking again. I wanted it to be somewhere we would not have to talk over anyone, he said. Mia's fingers touched the edge of her water glass. So, we can talk, she said. So we can breathe, he corrected. They ordered without drama. Mia chose salmon. Ethan chose steak, then changed his mind and chose salmon too, like he had forgotten he was allowed preferences that did not involve compromise. When the server left the space between them filled with everything they had not said, Mia glanced at Ethan's hands on the table. No ring, no tan line. Just long fingers, a faint ink smudge on his thumb that looked like he had been writing on paper instead of screens. What did Summit say to you after the meeting? Mia asked. Ethan's mouth tightened. They said the right phrases. Synergy, alignment, efficiency. His eyes lifted to hers. They looked at me like an asset, not a person. Mia nodded. That is how today felt. Ethan's gaze held hers longer. And your promotion. Mia's stomach nodded. I have not had time to feel it, she admitted. I keep thinking about the people whose names were not read out loud. Ethan's voice went lower, I know. Mia studied him. You said this morning you fought for my team. I did, he replied. Did it work? Ethan did not answer immediately. His eyes dropped to his water glass, then lifted again. Some of it, he said. Not enough. Mia's hands tightened together under the table. Derek survived, she said, and she hated how sharp her voice sounded. Ethan's jaw set, yes. He is already circling, Mia added. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He asked you to dinner. Mia stared. Nora talks fast. Ethan's mouth curved once quick. The whole office talks fast. Mia's voice dropped. He implied I got my role because of favors. Ethan's expression hardened. Did he say it directly? Not in words he could be punished for, Mia replied. He is careful. Ethan's fingers curled slightly, then relaxed. He looked up. You earned your role, he said. Mia met his gaze. The certainty in his voice made her throat tighten again. Thank you, she said. The server returned with bread and butter. The scent of warm crust softened the air between them. Mia broke a piece and held it without eating. Ethan leaned forward slightly. I brought the book because I wanted you to know something, he said. Mia's pulse quickened. What? That I have been paying attention, he replied. For a long time. Mia swallowed. Ethan. His eyes held hers steady, no games. You think I only see you as an editor, he said. But I have seen you as a person for 3 years. Mia's fingers tightened around the bread. You are my boss, she said quietly. Ethan did not flinch. Not for much longer, he replied. Mia's heart dropped. New York. His gaze stayed on hers. I turned it down, he said. Mia froze. The restaurant's sound fell away like someone had turned down the volume on the world. What she whispered. I told Graham this afternoon, Ethan said, voice calm but tight at the edges. I cannot uproot Sophie. She needs her school. Rachel, the routines that keep her steady. Mia stared at him, trying to fit the sentence into her reality. They announced it like it was decided, she said. They assumed I would say yes, he replied. Mia's chest felt too small for her breath. That was a major opportunity, she said. Ethan's eyes softened. So is she, he said. And so are a few other things. Mia's throat tightened. Like what? Ethan paused just long enough to choose his words like they mattered. Like not walking away from something I have wanted for a long time, he said. Like not pretending I do not care about you because it is easier. Mia's hands went cold. You turned down New York because of me. Ethan shook his head once. I turned down New York because of Sophie, he said. And because I do not want to keep living a life where everything important gets postponed until it becomes impossible. Mia stared at him, breath unsteady. What did Graham say? Ethan's mouth twitched without humor. He was not thrilled, he said. He offered me a different role based here. A creative director position for the combined list. It comes with its own complications. Mia's voice was barely audible. And you accepted. Ethan nodded. I did. Mia sat back slightly overwhelmed. She felt the weight of her own promotion, the weight of his decision, the weight of Sophie's question last night that had not sounded like a joke at all. Mia found her voice again thin and sharp with panic. This is still messy, she said. The office, the politics, Derek. Ethan's gaze stayed steady. We will handle the office, he said. We will follow policies. We will be careful. We will not give anyone a reason to doubt your work. Mia's eyes stung. She blinked quickly and looked down at the bread in her hands, now crushed. And Sophie, she asked. Ethan's expression softened into something unguarded. Sophie likes you, he said. She likes you because you did not laugh at her when she was serious and you did not run when she asked you something terrifying. Mia let out a breath that sounded shaky. I wanted to run, she admitted. Ethan's eyes warmed. I know, he said. You stayed anyway. Their food arrived, steam-rising plates set down gently, as if the server sensed the tension. Mia took a bite that she did not taste. Ethan ate like someone who had forgotten he needed food and was remembering only because the body demanded it. After dinner, Ethan drove Mia back. The city had deepened into night. The rain had stopped completely, leaving the air sharp and clean. When they reached her building, Ethan parked and walked her to her door. Mia stood with her keys in hand, the hallway light washing her face pale. She looked at him, searching. "You really did it," she said. "You said no." Ethan nodded. "I did." Mia swallowed. "And dinner," she said softly. "Was this professional?" Ethan's eyes held hers. "No," he said. Mia's heart hammered. "Then what is it?" Ethan stepped closer, slow enough that she could stop him, close enough that his warmth reached her. "It is me asking you," he said quietly, "to let this be real." Mia's breath hitched. She thought of the book on her counter, the flowers in the picture, Sophie's dinosaur blanket, Nora's frightened eyes, the board's clean slides that had rewritten lives in minutes. Mia lifted her chin. "Okay," she said. Ethan's hand rose and hovered near her cheek, waiting for permission. Mia leaned into the space instead of away from it. His touch was gentle fingers resting lightly along her jaw. He looked at her for a beat like he was making sure. Then he kissed her, slow and careful, as if he was learning a language he had been afraid to speak. Mia's hands curled into the front of his blazer, not pulling, just holding on, and when they finally broke apart, her forehead rested against his for a moment. She opened her eyes and found him still there, still steady. "Good night, Mia," Ethan said, voice low. "Good night," she whispered, and she did not let herself say anything else that might shake. Mia slept lightly, the kind of sleep that never fully lets go. When morning came, it came with a pale strip of winter sun across her bedroom wall and the smell of flowers that did not belong in her apartment. She lay still for a moment, listening to the building wake up. A distant elevator, a door latch. Someone's muffled footsteps down the hall. Then her eyes landed on the kitchen doorway, and she remembered the blue cover on her counter, the embossed letters, Ethan's hands giving her a piece of herself he had been quietly holding on to. Mia got up, padded into the kitchen, and stood in front of the pitcher of wildflowers. The petals looked brighter than they had any right to in Seattle light. Beside them, the book rested like a promise she had not asked for. Her phone buzzed. A calendar alert for a leadership huddle at 9, an integration briefing at 11, a one-on-one with HR at 2. Her new role had already built a fence around her day. She made coffee the way she always did and caught herself adding cream at the exact moment Ethan had added it for her. That small echo tightened her throat. She set the mug down and let the steam warm her face. On her way out, she hesitated at the counter, then slid the first edition into her tote with care, as if she needed the weight of it close. She did not know why. She just knew she did. Rainline's lobby was louder than usual, full of people who looked like they had slept in their clothes. Security badges flashed. Boxes sat beside ankles. Someone from Summit stood near the front desk with a tablet and a smile that looked glued on. Mia stepped into the elevator with Nora. Nora's eyes were too bright, like she was trying to outshine fear. "They are already doing new seating maps," Nora whispered. "They moved legal onto our floor." "Legal never comes to our floor." Mia nodded. "Breathe," she said softly. Nora watched Mia's face with a kind of nervous hope. "Are you okay?" Mia answered with the truth she could manage. "I am here." The elevator opened, and the floor smelled like printer toner and stale coffee. Mia walked past familiar cubicles that already felt less familiar. A Summit banner had been taped to the wall beside Rainline's framed author photos, like an arranged marriage with matching stationery. At her desk, a new nameplate sat in a box not yet assembled. Head of Literary Fiction. The words looked too clean for what the role would cost. Her inbox was full. Congratulatory notes from people who had never spoken to her. Meeting invites from Summit contacts she did not know. A terse message from Graham's assistant with 3 agenda items and no greeting. Then one subject line made her chest tighten. Code of Conduct Update. Mandatory attendance. Mia clicked it. There would be a new training session at noon for all leadership, updated policies for integration, updated disclosure requirements, updated reporting lines. The language was smooth, legal, and oddly intimate in the way it tried to control what people did with their private lives. Nora hovered at the edge of Mia's desk. "Your team is waiting in Conference B," she said. "They are scared." Mia stood. "Then we go." Conference B was too small for the tension inside it. Jamal sat with his arms folded, foot tapping. Priya held a notebook on her lap like a shield. Two junior editors stood by the wall, eyes fixed on the table as if the table might say something kind. When Mia walked in, every head turned. Mia set her tote down and looked around the room. She did not start with corporate phrases. She did not start with optimism. She started with the only thing that mattered. "I am not leaving," she said. A breath moved through the room, collective and shaky. "I have a new title," she continued. "It gives me leverage. It does not give me magic. We are going to lose people. I am going to fight for as many as I can. I am going to fight for the work." Jamal leaned forward. "Do you know who he asked?" Mia held his gaze. "I do not have a list yet. I will not pretend I do. If anyone tells you something that sounds like gossip wrapped in certainty, bring it to me." Priya's voice was quiet. "They will cut by metrics. Sales velocity, social engagement." Mia nodded. "Then we make the value visible. We document the books you saved, the authors you built, the revenue you protected, the manuscripts you turned from almost into yes. I want a one-page impact summary from each of you by end of day." Nora scribbled like her pen was on fire. Mia added, "And listen to me. If you feel like you are drowning, come to me. We do not do this alone." The meeting broke with some shoulders less hunched, but the fear did not disappear. It just moved into quieter places. As they filed out, Nora lingered. "HR asked if you can come early to the noon training," she said. Mia's stomach tightened. "Did they say why?" Nora shook her head. "They just said leadership." Mia nodded once. "Okay." When Nora left, Mia sat at her desk and stared at the new nameplate in its box. She did not open it. Not yet. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. For a second, her mind went to Ethan. Then she opened it and saw a notification from a Summit contact, a short introduction, and a request for a call. Mia deleted the message without replying. She would respond later on her own terms. At 10:30, she walked past the glass office that had once belonged to Ethan. Someone from Summit was already inside, moving furniture, peeling off the name from the door like it was a sticker. Mia kept walking. Her jaw hurt from how tightly she had been holding it. In the break room, Derek Vaughn stood by the coffee machine like it was his personal stage. He looked fresh, rested, and pleased with himself in a way Mia could not stand. "Mia," he said, smooth as oil. "Big day for you." Mia kept her tone neutral. "Big day for everyone." Derek leaned closer, lowering his voice. "People are talking." Mia did not blink. People always talk. Derek's eyes glittered. "Not like this. Head of an imprint." "You moved fast." Mia's skin went cold. "What are you implying?" Derek lifted his hands as if he were innocent. "Nothing. Just observation. You and Ethan were together a lot yesterday. He drove you in. He hovered at your desk. Then you got the biggest editorial title in the building." Mia's fingers tightened around her mug. "Ethan fought for my team. Ethan worked with me. Ethan is a leader. Do not confuse leadership with favors." Derek smiled. "I would never." His voice carried false sweetness. "I am just saying optics matter now. Summit loves optics. They measure it." Mia stepped closer, voice low and sharp. "And you love weapons." Derek's smile thinned. "Careful," he said softly. "Your new role comes with a spotlight. If you glare too hard, people start asking why." Mia held his gaze until his smile had to work harder to stay in place. Then she turned and walked out, coffee untouched. By noon, leadership gathered in a large training room with a screen and rows of chairs. The presenter spoke in smooth bullet points about integration, compliance, professionalism. Mia listened with half her mind taking notes, watching faces. Ethan arrived late, slipping into a seat near the back. He wore a white shirt with rolled sleeves, no tie. His expression was set, but his eyes found Mia for a brief second, then moved away. The look was controlled. It also made Mia's pulse jump. When the presenter reached the disclosure section, Mia's stomach tightened. Any romantic relationship between employees in leadership positions must be disclosed to human resources, the presenter said. This is not to police your life. It is to protect the organization and protect you. Reporting lines must be adjusted. Decision-making must be documented. Mia's pen stalled. Ethan's gaze stayed fixed on the screen, but his posture shifted slightly as if his body had heard every word. After the session, Mia walked out into the corridor with the other leaders. People spoke in low clusters, some annoyed, some amused, some already calculating. Ethan caught up to her near the stairwell door. He did not touch her. He did not even stand too close. Still, the space between them felt charged. "Mia," he said. She turned. "I heard," she replied. Ethan's voice stayed low. "We should disclose." Mia's throat tightened. "We kissed last night." "We did," he said, steady. Mia stared at him. "If we disclose, it becomes real in a file. It becomes something people can use." Ethan's jaw set. "If we do not disclose and Derek keeps sniffing around, it becomes something people can weaponize." Mia felt anger flare again. "He already is." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Then we do it the clean way." Mia held his gaze and saw the same determination he used in acquisitions meetings, the kind that did not ask for permission. It made her want to argue. It also made her feel less alone. "Okay," Mia said softly. Ethan's shoulders eased a fraction. "I will set the appointment," he said. "You pick the time that works for you." Mia almost smiled at the care in that sentence. "Fine," she said. They stepped away from each other as two executives passed by. The moment folded back into professionalism, but Mia could still feel it under her skin like warmth left in a blanket. The afternoon blurred into meetings and calls. Summit wanted lists. Rainline wanted reassurance. Authors wanted answers. Mia answered what she could, avoided what she could not. She held her team's fears like plates she could not drop. Near 4, Nora appeared at Mia's desk with a tight face. "Mia," she whispered, "there is an email going around." Mia's stomach dropped. "What email?" Nora handed her a printed page with shaky fingers. The subject line was in bold. Leadership alignment. Editorial structure. It looked like an internal summary from Summit Generic Corporate, but someone had added a line at the bottom before forwarding it. Interesting how fast some people climb when they have the right connections. "Congrats, Mia." Mia's throat went dry. She stared at the page until the letters blurred. Her name sat there like bait on a hook. Nora's voice cracked. "People are saying you and Ethan." Mia closed her eyes for a second, then opened them, forcing her expression into something steady. "Who sent it?" Mia asked. Nora swallowed. "It is from Derek's address, but he did not write his name in the line. He forwarded it to a group list." Mia's hands went cold. "How many?" Nora's eyes shone. "A lot." Mia's phone buzzed again. Another message, then another. Her screen lit up with notifications she did not open. She could already feel the office turning, curiosity sharpening into something meaner. Mia looked up at Nora, then past her to the glass corridor where people moved and glanced and looked away when she caught them. Mia took a slow breath and folded the paper once neatly as if precision could keep her from shaking. "Get Jamal and Priya," she said. "Tell them to stay close. No panic." Nora nodded and hurried away. Mia stood the folded paper in her hand and walked toward the leadership offices with her spine straight and her heartbeat loud in her ears. Mia walked with the folded paper in her hand like it was a subpoena. The leadership corridor was quieter than the rest of the floor glass offices lined up like fish tanks. Inside them, people talked in lowered voices, faces turned toward screens that held other people's lives. Mia passed Graham Whitaker's assistant, who looked up with polite alarm. "Mia," the assistant said, standing. "Do you have an appointment?" "I need 5 minutes with Ethan Cole," Mia replied. The assistant hesitated, then nodded toward the corner office that still carried Ethan's name on the calendar, even though the nameplate on the door had already been removed. Mia knocked once and stepped in. Ethan stood behind the desk, jacket off, sleeves rolled, phone pressed to his ear. He looked up, saw her face, and ended the call mid-sentence. "Give me a moment," he said, then set the phone down carefully. "What happened?" Mia held out the paper. Ethan took it and read the line at the bottom. His jaw tightened. The muscles near his ear moved once hard. "Derek," he said. Mia nodded. He sent it to a group list. Ethan's eyes lifted to hers. "How wide?" "Wide enough," Mia said. Ethan set the paper down on the desk like it disgusted him. "We go to HR." Mia's stomach clenched. "I know what HR will do. They will open a file and call it protection. Derek will call it proof." Ethan leaned forward, voice low. "Derek started this. You do not take the hit to look polite." Mia stared at him. "I am not trying to look polite," she said. "I am trying to keep my team from being collateral." Ethan's gaze softened for a beat, then sharpened again. "Your team is already collateral. So is mine. Derek is not scared of HR because he knows most people would rather swallow glass than report him." Mia's hands tightened around the strap of her tote. "If we disclose now, it looks like we are reacting because we got caught." Ethan's eyes held hers. "If we do not disclose it, looks like we are hiding." Mia drew a slow breath through her nose. She hated that he was right. Before she could answer, a knock sounded at the door. Graham's assistant stepped in, face tight. "Ethan, Mia," she said. "Mr. Whitaker would like you both in Conference D. Now." Ethan straightened. "About what?" The assistant's eyes flicked between them. Saltwater letters. Mia's pulse jumped. The manuscript had been her lifeline all week, the one thing that felt pure in a day full of corporate language. "Is this about the acquisition?" she asked. The assistant nodded once. "Legal is there." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Of course they are." Conference D sat at the end of the hallway, all glass and polished metal. Inside, Graham Whitaker stood near the screen, hands clasped behind his back, posture perfect as ever. Two Summit executives sat at the table with laptops open. Legal sat beside them with a thick folder and a face like a locked door. And at the far end of the table sat a man Mia had never seen before. Shoulders hunched, hair too long, hands folded so tightly his knuckles had gone pale. He looked up when Mia entered. He had Graham Whitaker's eyes. Mia's mind tried to name the resemblance and failed. The only thing that landed was the name she had seen on the title page, the author line she had read a dozen times like it was any other. Noah Whitaker. Mia stopped for half a second. Ethan's hand brushed her elbow, not pushing, just steadying. Graham cleared his throat. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Please sit." Mia sat slowly, choosing a chair that kept her face composed. Ethan took the seat beside her, angled slightly toward her without making it obvious. Noah kept his gaze on the table, as if looking up would cost him something. Graham spoke again, voice measured. "Saltwater Letters has become a central point in our post-merger strategy." A Summit executive nodded, smiling like this was good news. "It has traction," she said. "Preliminary reads are strong. The voice is urgent. The market is hungry for authenticity." Noah flinched at the word market, barely noticeable, but Mia saw it. Legal slid a page across the table toward Mia. "There are concerns," he said. Mia looked down. It was a list of flagged passages, page numbers, short descriptions. Family history, financial misconduct, abuse of influence. A line that read, "Thinly veiled portrayal of a publishing executive." Mia's throat went dry. She had read the manuscript in a rush, focused on structure, voice, pacing. She had felt the heat of it. She had not expected a formal list like this, a list that treated language like a crime scene. Mia looked up at Graham. "What exactly are the concerns?" she asked. Graham's face stayed smooth. "Reputational," he said. Ethan's voice cut in, calm and sharp. "That is not an editorial term." The Summit executive's smile tightened. "It is a business term," she replied. Noah finally lifted his head. His eyes were red at the edges, not crying now, but like he had spent time too close to it. "It is not about business," he said quietly. The room went still for a beat. Graham's jaw tightened. "Noah," he warned, gentle in tone, but not in meaning. Mia's attention snapped fully to Noah. His face was young, late 20s maybe, but tired in a way that made age irrelevant. His hands were ink-stained at the fingertips like he still wrote on paper because screens felt too clean for what he needed to say. Mia turned back to Graham. "You called us in for saltwater letters," she said. "Why is the author here with legal?" Graham's eyes met hers. "Because this book is complicated," he said. Mia held his gaze. "Because the author is your son." A small silence followed, heavy and undeniable. The summit executive's eyes widened for a fraction of a second. Then her expression snapped back into control. Legal looked at his folder like it had always been obvious. Noah stared at the table again, shoulders tightening like he had expected this moment, and still did not want it. Graham did not deny it. "Yes," he said, voice even. "Noah is my son." Mia's stomach turned not from the relationship itself, but from the way no one had told her while placing this manuscript in her hands like a test. Ethan's posture stiffened. "And you did not disclose that during acquisition review," he said. Graham's gaze flicked to Ethan. "The manuscript came in through standard submission channels," he replied. "It was reviewed without my involvement." Noah made a quiet sound, half laugh, half breath. "That is not true," he said. Graham's eyes sharpened. Noah looked up, and the resemblance to Graham became painful. "You knew," he said, voice low but steady. "You have always known. You just like to say you did not." Mia felt her pulse in her throat. She turned the page of flagged passages with careful fingers. "What are you asking for?" she asked, keeping her tone level. "Revisions, cuts, a delay," Legal answered. "We are requesting edits to reduce identifiability. Remove or alter material that could be construed as defamatory." Noah's head snapped up. "It is not defamation if it happened," he said. The summit executive held up a placating hand. "Noah, we are not saying your experience is not valid," she said. "We are saying we need to protect the company." Noah's laugh this time was sharp. "Protect the company from words he said, after what the company did." Graham's voice dropped. "Enough." Ethan leaned forward slightly. "No," he said, calm but unyielding. "Not enough. We are discussing a manuscript. We do not silence the author in the room." Mia's eyes flicked to Ethan, gratitude and fear tangled together. Graham exhaled, once controlled. "Mia," he said, turning to her, "you are leading the new literary fiction imprint. You understand stakes. We cannot publish something that exposes us to litigation during a merger." Mia kept her face neutral. Inside, she felt the book's heat again, the honesty she had admired. She thought of the exact sentences that had made her pause while reading the ones that did not ask for approval. She looked at Noah. "Do you want the book published as written?" she asked. Noah's gaze met hers, and for a moment the corporate room fell away. "Yes," he said. "I wrote it to be true. If it gets softened into something safe, it becomes a lie." Mia nodded slowly. She turned to Graham. "If your concern is process, then we fix the process," she said. "We build a review wall. I can recuse myself from any decision that involves personal relationships." Graham's eyes narrowed. Mia continued, keeping her voice steady. "But editorial integrity is not a liability. It is the product." The summit executive leaned back slightly, watching Mia with new interest. "Integrity is also a brand," she said. Mia's mouth tightened. "This is not branding," she replied. "This is a book." Legal tapped his folder. "A book that could cost millions." Ethan's voice was quiet but sharp. "Or earn millions, or save a list that is bleeding." Graham looked at Ethan, then back at Mia. "We need a path that does not blow up in our faces," he said. Noah's hands clenched. "You mean in yours," he muttered. Graham's eyes flashed, then he controlled it. "I am trying to keep this company alive," he said. People's jobs depend on stability. Mia thought of Nora's nervous smile, Jamal's tapping foot, Priya's quiet voice. She thought of the email Derek had sent, the way power twisted everything it touched. Mia placed the flagged list flat on the table. "Here's what I can do," she said. "I will evaluate the manuscript for identifiability from an editorial standpoint, not a PR standpoint. I will recommend changes only where the writing itself benefits, not where discomfort benefits. Legal can review for risk, but no one gets to strip the voice out of this book and call it responsible." The summit executive studied her. "And if legal says no," Mia met her gaze. "Then we decide whether we are a publishing house or a liability management firm," she said. The room held still again. Graham's face stayed composed, but his eyes tightened at the corners. "Mia," he said, voice quiet, "you are new in this position. I suggest caution." Mia felt the warning. She also felt something else, a hard line inside her that had been drawn years ago when she decided to build books, not just sell them. She nodded once. "Caution does not have to mean silence," she replied. Graham's gaze moved to Noah. For a brief moment, the CEO mask slipped and something paternal surfaced, strained and complicated. "Noah," he said, "we will continue this discussion." Noah's jaw clenched. "You mean you will continue managing it?" he replied. Ethan stood. "We are done for now," he said, voice firm. "Mia has her direction. Legal has their concerns. You have your merger. Noah has his manuscript." Graham's eyes flicked to Ethan. "Sit down," he said. Ethan did not. "I will send HR a disclosure request for leadership relationships," he said, tone even, "today." Mia's breath caught. She did not look at him, but she felt the decision land like a door closing. She also felt relief. Graham's eyes narrowed slightly. Then he nodded once, as if he had expected control to be challenged, and was choosing not to fight on this front. "Fine," he said. Mia gathered the flagged pages and the manuscript copy in front of her. Noah's gaze followed her hands. When she stood, Noah spoke softly only to her. "Do not let them take it away," he said. Mia met his eyes. "I will not edit it into a ghost," she replied. Noah swallowed hard and nodded once. Outside the conference room, the corridor light felt too bright. Ethan walked beside her in silence for a few steps, then spoke quietly. "You handled that," he said. Mia's voice came out low. "I did not know I was walking into a family funeral." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You walked into a power problem." Mia clutched the manuscript to her chest like it could keep her upright. "And Derek is pouring gasoline on it," she said. Ethan looked at her eyes steady. "We do the disclosure," he said. "We file the report on Derek. We do it clean." Mia drew a slow breath. "Okay," she said, and meant it this time. Back at her desk, Nora looked up, eyes searching. Mia set the manuscript down gently, like setting down something alive. Nora whispered, "Did you talk to leadership?" Mia nodded. "Yes." Nora glanced at the thick stack of pages. "Is that the book everyone is fighting about?" Mia looked at the title page at the name printed there, Noah Whitaker, and felt the room tilt again. "It is," Mia said. She opened to the first chapter, eyes catching on a line she had underlined without realizing it the night before. "For my father who taught me how to disappear in plain sight." Mia's fingers tightened on the paper. She closed the manuscript slowly and stared at the cover until the blue looked darker than it should. Mia kept the manuscript closed for a long minute, palm resting on the blue cover, as if she could feel the pulse of the thing through paper. The line she had just read sat behind her eyes, sharp as a splinter. "For my father who taught me how to disappear in plain sight." Outside her glass office, the floor moved in restless currents. People walked past and looked away a beat too fast. Nora hovered at the edge of Mia's doorway, like she was guarding something fragile. Mia lifted her gaze. "Close the door," Mia said. Nora did quietly. Tell Jamal and Priya we are holding our impact summaries until I say otherwise, Mia said. No one forwards anything. No one jokes. No one reacts in writing. Nora nodded, swallowing hard. People are asking if the rumor is true. Mia's jaw tightened. What rumor? Nora's cheeks went red. That you got your title because Ethan. She stopped like the rest of the sentence was a stain. Mia held steady. You tell them my title came because I have edited half the prize list on this floor and because I did not miss deadlines when other people missed sleep. You tell them if they want to discuss my qualifications, they can schedule time. Nora's eyes shone. Okay. Mia reached into her tote and pulled out the first edition Ethan had given her. She placed it on the corner of her desk where she could see it. Not as a trophy, as a reminder that she was not imagining his attention. She was not imagining her own. Nora's gaze flicked to the book, then back to Mia. She did not ask. She just said, HR is still expecting you at 3. Mia nodded. And Ethan. Nora exhaled relief and fear tangled together. Okay, she whispered again, then slipped out. At 2:58, Mia stood and walked to Human Resources with the same deliberate pace she used when walking into an author meeting with bad news. The HR office smelled like lavender sanitizer and paper. Everything looked clean enough to erase guilt. Ethan was already there, seated in a chair along the wall. He stood when Mia entered, not too fast, not too slow. His face was composed, but his eyes held the strain of a man who had been making decisions with no room for soft edges. The HR director, a woman named Colleen who spoke like a lullaby and filed like a machine, greeted them with a gentle smile. Thank you for coming, she said. Please sit. Mia sat. Ethan sat beside her, leaving enough space to look professional, close enough that Mia could feel his warmth when the air conditioning kicked on. Colleen folded her hands. This is a standard disclosure meeting, she said. It is confidential within HR and legal. The goal is to protect the company and protect you both. Mia heard the word protect and felt her stomach tighten. Colleen continued, Are you in a romantic relationship? Ethan answered, first voice steady. Yes. Mia's pulse jumped, not because it was untrue, but because of how cleanly he claimed it in that room. Colleen nodded as if she were confirming a meeting time. Are either of you in a direct reporting line with the other? No, Ethan said. Under the new structure, we are in separate verticals. Colleen made a note. Any influence over compensation decisions? Performance reviews, staffing. Mia kept her gaze forward. No, she said. Colleen's tone stayed calm. We will document this. We will put a boundary plan in place. No private meetings without documentation when decisions are involved. No participation in hiring decisions that could be construed as favoritism. If concerns arise, you report them. Ethan nodded once. Mia nodded once. Colleen glanced at a folder on her desk. Now, she said, the gentleness thinning. We also received a report regarding an email that may constitute harassment or defamation. Mia's throat went dry. Ethan's jaw tightened. Derek Vaughn, he said. Colleen looked at him. Do you have evidence? Mia slid the folded paper across the desk. Colleen read it without expression, then placed it on top of her folder. We will investigate, Colleen said. I will say this clearly. Retaliation is not permitted. If anyone makes your work environment hostile due to personal assumptions, that is a problem we address. Mia wanted to believe her. She did not. She had watched too many men like Derek survive by being just careful enough. Colleen stood. We will follow up, she said. You may go. In the hallway outside, HR, Mia stopped walking and stared at the wall for a second, breathing through her nose. Ethan stood beside her silent. Mia spoke first. That felt like signing a document in a storm. Ethan's voice was low. It is better than giving Derek a secret. Mia looked at him. He still has a story, she said. Ethan's eyes sharpened. Then we starve it. We do not feed it with fear. We do not feed it with silence. Mia held his gaze. She wanted to argue. Instead, she nodded because she did not have the strength to carry this alone. They returned to the floor. As they stepped out of the elevator, a hush moved through nearby desks, subtle but real. Mia felt eyes on her like heat lamps. Someone turned away too late. Someone pretended to laugh at something on their screen. Derek Vaughn stood near the copy room talking to a summit manager. When he saw Mia, his smile widened, slow and pleased. He lifted a hand in a small wave like they were friendly. Mia walked past without stopping. Behind her, Derek's voice floated in a tone made for overhearing. "Seattle is full of weather and surprises," he said lightly. Mia did not look back. Her hands shook anyway. By 6, the office had thinned. Mia finally be with Jamal and Priya and Nora, outlining what she could about the integration timeline, giving them tasks that felt concrete. Nora typed until her fingers cramped. Jamal built a list of authors whose careers would be at risk if their editors were cut. Priya compiled the impact summaries with the precision of someone assembling evidence. When they finished, Jamal leaned back and rubbed his eyes. "You look like you have not breathed all day," he said to Mia. Mia tried to smile. "Breathing is optional this week." Priya's gaze stayed on Mia's face. Derek sent another message, she said quietly. Mia's stomach dropped. "What?" Priya turned her laptop toward Mia. An email thread forwarded again now with replies. Nothing explicit, just questions, jokes, people pretending to be neutral. "Is it true? Must be nice. Guess that is how you climb now." Mia felt her vision narrow. She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them. Nora's voice cracked. "I hate them." Mia inhaled slowly. "Do not answer," she said. "Not one of you. If anyone asks you, send them to me. I will do the talking." Jamal's jaw tightened. "We should go to legal," he said. "We already went to HR," Mia replied. Her voice was steady, but her chest burned. "We let the process work, and we keep doing our job so well the story dies of embarrassment." Priya reached out and touched Mia's wrist once gentle. "You are not alone," she said. The words almost broke Mia. She nodded because that was all she could trust herself to do. At 8:15, Mia finally left the building. The night air was cold and clean, the pavement still damp from earlier rain. She walked home with her shoulders tight, phone heavy in her hand. She had just stepped into her apartment and kicked off her shoes when her phone rang. Ethan's name lit up the screen. Mia answered on the first ring. Ethan. His voice was different. Not the boardroom voice, not even the dinner voice. A tighter, rawer sound. "Mia," he said, "can you come over?" Mia's stomach clenched. "What is wrong?" "Sophie has a fever," he replied. "Rachel is with her. She is burning up. She keeps asking for you." Mia froze with her hand still on her door lock. "For me?" Ethan exhaled shaky. "I told her you were busy." She said busy is not a reason. Mia's throat tightened. The image of Sophie on the stool flashed in her mind, syrup on her lip, eyes too sharp for a child. "Have you called the pediatrician?" Mia asked, already moving toward her keys. "Yes," Ethan said. "They want us to come in." "I am on my way," Mia replied. She did not change out of her work clothes. She did not sit down. She just grabbed her coat and ran. Ethan's building lobby was quiet, the doorman's eyes flicking up with recognition. Mia rode the elevator with her heart pounding and stepped into Ethan's hallway to the sound of a child crying. Rachel opened the door before Mia could knock. Her face was pale, hair pulled back tight like she had been living on adrenaline. "Thank God," Rachel whispered. Mia stepped inside and the apartment felt different. The lights were dim. A blanket lay on the couch. A small bowl sat on the coffee table. The air smelled like medicine and fear. Sophie was curled on the couch, cheeks flushed, hair damp with sweat. Her eyes cracked open when Mia approached. "Mia," Sophie croaked. Mia knelt beside her. "Hey," she said softly. "I heard you needed a bossy adult." Sophie's mouth twitched. "Daddy is the bossy adult." Ethan stood near the couch phone in hand, shoulders rigid. When his eyes met Mia's, something in his face loosened like a knot giving up. "She has not stopped asking," he said, voice low. Mia reached out and brushed Sophie's hair back from her forehead. The heat under Mia's fingers shocked her. "You are so warm," Mia murmured. Sophie's eyes blinked slowly. "I feel like a dragon," she whispered. "Dragons are strong," Mia said. Rachel grabbed a small bag from the floor. "We have her insurance card, her thermometer, the doctor's number," she said quickly. "Ethan keeps pacing. I told him pacing does not lower fever." "I am not pacing," Ethan said, and Mia could hear the lie in his voice. Mia stood and faced him. "Keys," she said. Ethan blinked. "What?" "Your keys," Mia repeated, calm and direct. "You are driving, but you are not doing it in your head. You are doing it with your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road." Ethan swallowed and nodded. He picked up his keys. His fingers shook once, then steadied. Mia turned back to Sophie. "Can you stand?" she asked gently. Sophie tried, wobbled, then leaned into Mia without thinking. Mia lifted her, carefully, surprised by how light she was. Sophie's head rested against Mia's shoulder, hot and damp. Mia felt her own heart squeezed tight, protective in a way she had not expected from herself. Ethan grabbed a jacket and wrapped it around Sophie, then looked at Mia, as if he did not know where to put his worry. "Thank you," he said, the words almost soundless. Mia nodded once. "Let us go." The ride to urgent care was quiet, except for Sophie's small breaths. Ethan drove with both hands on the wheel, jaw clenched. Mia held Sophie close in the back seat and whispered silly things about dragons and pancakes and spiral syrup rules. Sophie's eyelids fluttered. "Will you stay?" she murmured. Mia's throat tightened. "I am here," she said. "I am not going anywhere." At urgent care, fluorescent lights made everything look harsh. A nurse took Sophie's temperature and pursed her lips. Ethan's face tightened, his eyes fixed on the nurse's hands like he could control the outcome by watching. Rachel filled out forms. Mia answered questions when Sophie was too tired to speak. Ethan stood at Sophie's side and smoothed her blanket over and over, a gesture that did not change anything and still mattered. When the doctor finally came in and explained it was likely a viral infection, when the medicine plan was simple and the warning signs were clear, Ethan's shoulders sagged like someone had cut a string. Outside in the parking lot under cold streetlights, Ethan let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped all day. "I do not do helpless well," he said quietly. Mia looked at him. "You do it anyway," she replied. Ethan's eyes flicked to her face, then to Sophie, asleep in Mia's arms. His voice dropped. "She asked for you." Mia's chest tightened. "She is smart," Mia said softly. "She knows who makes her feel safe." Ethan stared for a beat, and the look in his eyes was too raw to be office appropriate. Back at Ethan's apartment, Rachel carried Sophie to bed. Mia helped change her into clean pajamas. Sophie woke just enough to blink at Mia and mumbled dragon, then fell asleep again. Mia stepped into the hallway and found Ethan leaning against the wall, head tipped back, eyes closed. When he opened them, he looked exhausted and grateful and angry all at once. "Today was brutal," he said. Mia nodded. "Yes." Ethan's gaze held hers. "And you still came." Mia's voice was quiet. "Yes." A silence settled between them, not empty, just full. Ethan reached out and touched Mia's hand, careful as if asking permission every second. Mia let him. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it. Then it buzzed again. Mia pulled it out and glanced at the screen. An email notification. Sender name obscured by the preview, but the subject line clear enough to make her stomach drop. Saltwater letters. Executive review packet. Mia looked up at Ethan, then back at the phone, the glow harsh in the dim hallway. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "They are moving fast," he said. Mia's fingers tightened around the device. "So are we," she replied, and she did not even recognize how steady her own voice had become until she heard it. She slipped the phone back into her pocket, walked to the kitchen table, and set her tote down. The manuscript was inside heavy and waiting. Mia pulled it out and laid it flat, the blue cover catching the low light. Ethan came to stand beside her silent. Mia opened to the first page and placed her hand on the paper the way she had earlier in her own office, the way she did when a story mattered enough to fight for. She looked at Ethan once, then down at the text, and began to read with the focus of someone who had decided she would not disappear in plain sight. The apartment stayed quiet after midnight, the kind of quiet that comes after fear burns itself out. Sophie slept with a cool cloth folded across her forehead, one small hand curled around the edge of her blanket like she was anchoring herself. Rachel sat in the living room with her phone in one hand and a half-empty mug in the other, eyes heavy but alert. Mia and Ethan sat at the kitchen table under the warm pool of light from the pendant lamp. The executive packet email sat unread on Mia's phone, face down. The manuscript lay open between them, Noah Whittaker's words, filling the space like tidewater. Ethan read, with his finger tracking lines he had already underlined earlier, the way he did when he needed to stay honest. Mia read in silence, marking passages that needed tightening, not softening. She circled repetition. She noted where a scene could land harder if a paragraph ended one sentence sooner. She also drew stars beside the sentences that made her chest ache, the ones that were too clean to be accidental. After an hour, Ethan leaned back and rubbed a hand over his mouth. "They want to gut it," he said. Mia did not look up. "They want to disinfect it," she replied. Same thing, prettier word. Ethan's gaze went to the hallway to the closed door of Sophie's room. His voice dropped. "You heard him," he said. "He wrote it to be true." Mia turned a page. "Truth does not mean sloppiness," she said. "But it also does not mean corporate amnesia." Ethan nodded once. "How do we protect the book and protect the company enough to keep your team from getting fed to the merger?" he asked. Mia's pen hovered. "We stop pretending those are separate questions," she said. "We build a process that survives scrutiny. We document. We recuse where needed. We let legal do their job without letting them become editors." Ethan watched her for a beat, then gave a small, tired smile. "You sound like you're already running the imprint," he said. Mia's mouth tightened. "I am running the imprint," she replied, then softened her tone. "At least on paper." The clock on the microwave clicked over to 1:16 a.m. Outside, Seattle's streetlights threw damp reflections across the windows. Ethan stood and poured water from the pitcher, then set a glass beside Mia without being asked. The gesture was quiet and domestic, and it made Mia's throat tighten in a way she refused to examine. Rachel rose from the couch and stretched. "You two need sleep," she said, voice low. "I can stay on the sofa." Ethan shook his head. "Go home," he said. "You have work." Rachel looked at him like he was stubborn on principle. Then her gaze shifted to Mia and softened. "Thank you," she said simply. Mia nodded. "Of course." Rachel grabbed her coat, then paused near the hallway. "Sophie likes you," she said. It was not a tease. It was a fact delivered like a warning and a blessing at the same time. Then she left quietly, the door clicking shut behind her. Ethan exhaled and leaned his hands on the counter. "I will take first watch," he murmured. Mia closed the manuscript gently. "She is stable," Mia said. "She is safe." Ethan's eyes flicked to hers. "You say that like you have to convince me," he replied. Mia stood collecting her notes into a neat pile. "I say it because you need to hear it," she said. Ethan's gaze held hers, and for a second the kitchen felt smaller again, full of things neither of them had named. Then he looked away and nodded once, accepting the kindness without making it a conversation. Mia slept in the guest room again. This time she did not wear Ethan's shirt. She wore her own sweater and leggings as if fabric could restore control. She still woke twice listening for Sophie. Both times she heard Ethan's quiet footsteps in the hall and the soft creak of Sophie's door opening and closing. By morning, Sophie's fever had broken. Mia stood at the edge of Sophie's bed while Ethan checked the thermometer and let out a slow breath that sounded like relief, trying to pretend it was nothing. Sophie blinked up at Mia, pale but proud. "I am not a dragon anymore," she whispered. Mia smiled. "Good," she said. "Dragons get tired." Sophie's mouth twitched. "Can I still have pancakes?" Ethan laughed, once a short sound, then nodded. "Yes," he said. "You can have pancakes." Sophie's eyes drifted to Mia. "Spiral," she reminded them. "Spiral," Mia agreed. While Ethan cooked, Mia sat at the table with her laptop open, and the executive packet finally pulled up. The agenda was blunt. Executive review at 10. Summit stakeholders present. Legal present. Decision needed on whether to proceed with saltwater letters in the combined launch calendar. A decision needed, like books were switches. Ethan placed coffee in front of her, then paused. "How do you take it?" he asked deadpan. Mia's lips twitched. "Nice try," she said, and took the mug anyway. Sophie ate slowly, appetite returning in small, careful bites. When she finished, Ethan helped her back onto the couch with a blanket and a movie at low volume. Sophie's eyelids drooped, then lifted again. "Are you going to work?" she asked Mia. Mia nodded. "Yes." Sophie frowned. "Work is rude," she declared. Ethan leaned down and kissed the top of Sophie's head. "Work buys pancakes," he said. Sophie accepted that with a sigh. "Okay," she said, then looked at Mia again. "Come back," she added, simple and direct. Mia's chest tightened. "I will," she said, and she meant the words in the only way she could. She would come back today. She would come back tonight if Sophie needed her. She would not treat that request like a joke. Ethan drove Mia to Rainline. The car smelled faintly of syrup and clean laundry. Neither of them talked much. They did not need to. The day already had enough noise. In the elevator, Mia adjusted her tote on her shoulder. Inside it were the manuscript, her marked pages, and a folder of printed emails. Derek's smear. The updated code of conduct memo. Notes from HR, as much as she could write down without turning the meeting into evidence theft. Ethan glanced at the folder. "You brought receipts," he said quietly. Mia met his eyes. "I brought the truth," she replied. The executive conference room was brighter than it needed to be. The summit executives sat with polished laptops and identical water bottles. Legal sat with their folder. Graham Whitaker stood at the head of the table, calm as a monument. Noah sat at the far end again, shoulders tense, eyes fixed on a spot on the wood grain as if it could hold him together. Derek Vaughn stood near the sideboard, espresso in handsuit, perfect smile, ready. When Mia entered, his eyes flicked over her with the satisfaction of someone who had already decided he had won something. Mia ignored him and took her seat. Graham began without preamble. "We need a clear recommendation," he said, looking at Mia. "Proceed, revise, or pass." Mia placed her notes on the table, aligned them, then looked up. "Proceed," she said. Legal's eyebrows lifted. The summit executive's eyes sharpened. Noah's head snapped up, disbelief and hope tangled together. Mia continued before anyone could interrupt. "Proceed with a structured editorial and legal process," she said. "We do not sanitize the book. We strengthen it. We address identifiability where it is lazy, not where it is uncomfortable." Legal leaned forward. "That is not an acceptable risk framework," he said. Mia turned her gaze to him. "It is an honest one," she replied. "I am not here to pretend fiction never resembles real life. I am here to make sure the writing is defensible because it is crafted, not because it is hollow." The summit executive folded her hands. "Your argument is moral," she said. Mia kept her voice level. "My argument is editorial," she replied. "And business if you want it. This book has energy. It has urgency. It has the kind of voice readers share without being asked. That is not common. We have been complaining about declining attention spans and then trying to publish books that do not demand attention. This one does." Graham's eyes narrowed slightly, and the relationship, he said, voice smooth. Noah went still. Mia did not flinch. "You mean the fact that the author is your son," she said. That relationship. Graham's jaw tightened, but he nodded, yes. Mia slid a single page forward. Here is my recusal statement, she said. I will not be the final decision-maker on contractual terms. I will not have private meetings regarding this manuscript without documentation. Any editorial changes I recommend will be logged with rationale based on craft. Legal will review for defamation and identifiability. We will involve an external publishing counsel if legal requests it, and we will document that too. The summit executive read the page, then looked up. You came prepared, she said. Mia met her gaze. I had to, she replied. Legal's mouth tightened. Even with that, we are still exposed, he said. The book paints a publishing executive in a way that could be considered identifiable. Mia nodded. Then we do the work, she said. We adjust composite details where needed. We tighten the scenes so they do not rely on winks and labels. If a passage only works because it points a finger, it is not strong enough anyway. But we do not cut the spine out of the book because the bones look like someone's. Noah swallowed. His hands clenched and unclenched on the table. Graham's gaze flicked to Noah. This is a merger, Graham said. We cannot afford scandal. Noah's voice was quiet but steady. You could afford it when it was happening, he said. A sharp silence filled the room. Derek let out a small laugh as if trying to turn the tension into entertainment. Family therapy is above my pay grade, he said lightly. Mia turned her head toward him for the first time. This is not your meeting, she said. Derek's smile widened. Marketing is always in the meeting now, he replied. Mia's voice stayed calm. Then market this, she said, and slid a second folder across the table, not toward Derek, but toward Graham and the summit executive. This is a record of internal communications that have already compromised Rainline's reputation more than any book has. Graham's eyes narrowed. What is this? Mia looked at Derek. An email forwarded by Derek Vaughn, she said, that implies my promotion was not earned. It was sent broadly. It violates the code of conduct we were trained on yesterday. Derek's smile froze. The summit executive opened the folder and scanned the page. Legal leaned in. Graham's face remained controlled, but the air around him changed. He looked at Derek with a kind of stillness that felt dangerous. Derek chuckled again, thinner this time. That is office chatter, he said. People are sensitive. We are under stress. Mia kept her gaze on Graham. It is harassment dressed as insinuation, she said. And if you want to talk about reputational risk during a merger, you should start with the person who is already lighting fires inside the building. Derek's eyes flicked to Ethan. This is convenient, Derek said, voice sharper now. Ethan, Cole's friend, delivers a complaint, and suddenly I am the villain. Ethan's voice was quiet and flat. She is not my friend in this room, he said. She is the head of an imprint. You are a liability. Derek's jaw tightened. Careful, he snapped. Ethan did not blink. We already disclosed, he said. HR has documentation. Your insinuations are not new. They are just louder. Graham's gaze stayed on Derek. Colleen, he said, turning to HR's representative seated along the side. Have we received a report? Colleen nodded once. Yes, she said. We are investigating. Derek's smile returned with effort. Investigating is not convicting, he said. The summit executive closed the folder. This is messy, she said to no one in particular. Mia met her eyes. Messy is letting rumors run the company, she replied. Clean is addressing them and moving on. Graham exhaled, controlled. Back to the book, he said. Mia nodded. Proceed, she repeated. With documentation. With recusal where needed. With craft and legal review that respects the author's voice. Legal opened his mouth, then stopped as if he had realized there was no version of his argument that would not sound like fear in that room. Graham looked at Noah. Are you willing to make changes that protect identifiability? He asked. Noah's eyes flicked to Mia. Mia held his gaze and gave the smallest nod, not permission to be silenced, but permission to be a professional. Noah drew a slow breath. I am willing to make changes that make the book stronger, he said. Not changes that make it polite. Graham nodded once. Then we proceed, he said, voice firm. Mia leads the editorial path. Legal partners. Summit is briefed. Derek, he added. Eyes cutting to Derek. You will step out of communications regarding Mia's division until HR completes the investigation. Derek's face tightened. That is absurd, he said. Graham's voice did not rise. It is final, he replied. The meeting ended without applause. People stood and gathered their laptops. Noah stayed seated for a beat, then rose slowly as if his legs had to remember how to hold him. As Mia packed her notes, Noah spoke quietly. Thank you, he said. Mia met his eyes. Write the next draft like you mean it, she replied. No defensive edits. No apologies. Noah's mouth trembled almost a smile. Okay, he said, and left the room. In the hallway, Ethan fell into step beside Mia. The office noise seemed distant, as if the building had paused to listen. You just walked into a merger and told them to stop being cowards, Ethan said, voice low. Mia let out a breath. I told them to do their jobs, she replied. Ethan's gaze held hers for a beat. Same thing he murmured. Later that afternoon, Colleen called Mia into HR again. This time, legal joined. Derek was not present. That detail alone felt like a small victory. Colleen's voice remained calm. We reviewed additional complaints, she said. We pulled email logs. We confirmed the forwarded message and the distribution list. Mia kept her face still, and she asked. Colleen folded her hands. Derek is being removed from leadership communications tied to your imprint, she said. He will be placed on a performance improvement plan with clear conduct requirements. If there is further retaliation, the consequences will escalate. Mia nodded, accepting the language for what it was. Not justice, not closure, just a boundary with teeth. When Mia returned to her floor, Nora looked up like she had been holding her breath all day. Jamal and Priya hovered nearby. Mia set her tote down and finally opened the box with the new nameplate. She slid the pieces into place with careful hands, then set it on her desk where it could be seen. Head of literary fiction. Nora's eyes shone. Is it okay? She whispered. Mia looked at her team. We are still here, she said. Now we work. That evening, Mia went back to Ethan's apartment. Sophie sat on the couch with a fresh cup of water and a bowl of crackers like she had been given the world's most serious banquet. When Mia walked in, Sophie smiled weakly. You came back, Sophie said. Mia hung her coat. I said I would, she replied. Ethan appeared in the doorway looking tired but lighter. How did it go? He asked. Mia set her bag down. The book lives, she said. Ethan's shoulders loosened. Good, he murmured. Sophie's eyes narrowed. Is the book a dragon? She asked. Mia laughed softly. Something like that, she said. 2 days later, when Sophie was fully herself again, Ethan kept the ice skating promise. Seattle Center was cold and bright music low over the rink skates scratching against ice like constant punctuation. Sophie held Ethan's hand at first, then demanded to hold Mia's too because Sophie did not believe in single options. Mia stepped onto the ice, carefully knees tense. Sophie immediately leaned her full weight into Mia like she was testing stability. You are wobbly, Sophie announced. Mia stared at her skates. I am cautious, she corrected. Sophie sighed like Mia was exhausting. Just do the glide, she instructed, and pulled Mia forward with surprising strength. Ethan skated on Sophie's other side, steady and patient, smiling in a way Mia still was not used to seeing. When Sophie slipped, both adults tightened their grip at the same time. Sophie regained balance and grinned triumphant. See, Sophie said, team. Mia felt her throat tighten, not with fear this time, but with something warmer. After an hour, Sophie demanded hot chocolate. They sat on a bench with paper cups in their hands, Sophie's cheeks pink from cold and victory. She leaned into Mia's side without thinking, then looked up at Ethan. Are you still going to be bossy at work? She asked. Ethan's mouth twitched. Probably, he admitted. Sophie nodded, satisfied. Then she looked at Mia. "Are you still going to make books?" she asked. Mia stared at the rink at people circling and falling and getting up again. "Yes," she said. Sophie took a sip of hot chocolate, then declared, "Good," as if that settled the world. Ethan's fingers brushed Mia's glove light and careful, and he did not pull away. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves a good, slow-burn romance. I would also love to know where you are watching from, so drop your city or country in the comments.